Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Aether Hub. I'm Simon, bringing you another Magic the Gathering video. Today we're discussing the world building of Kaldheim and what makes this plane so unique in the fantastical multiverse that is MTG. In particular, we're taking a look at the mystical and spiritual side of Kaldheim, the worlds within worlds, the cosmos, and yes, even the monsters who exist in this abstract area known as cosmos monsters. How does a plane exist on a tree, and how does it fare against these literal space beasts? Let's find out. Before that though, if you're enjoying our content here on the Aether Hub, be sure to support future videos by leaving us a like, subscribing, and ticking that notification bell. You can also support us over on Patreon, where you get perks like these videos previewed early and signed cards every single month. So check out those in the description below, and now let's get back to the lore. The story of Kaldheim, like every other plane in MTG, has a beginning, where it all started. Kaldheim, unlike other planes though, has those very first vital moments well recorded in what is known as the First Saga, the birth of Kaldheim, and its world tree. Kaldheim is unique because the central plane itself is in fact just this singular object, one born from a tree of pure mana implanted in the twisting blind eternities, the space between planes. As that seed took root, an enormous tree of untold magical potential sprouted and grew, towering tall into the cosmos until it was the size of an entire world in and of itself. This is the World Tree, the central figure in the history and lore of Kaldheim, because it actually is Kaldheim. From this World Tree, enough mana poured from its branches that pocket planes started to form. 10 branches in total jetted from the World Tree, and thus 10 mini planes were born and connected to it. Think of these pocket planes much like the shards of Alara. Those shards are all a part of the same plane, Alara, but were still separated by a force. In Alara's case, it was just raw space, but here on Kaldheim, it was just the distance of the branches that kept these 10 realms apart. Though they did not make contact, they were all rooted to the same world tree, so the possibility of traveling between these realms remained. However, the world tree didn't only bring life with its branches, figures of death and destruction too grew along with them. With each branch came the creation of what are known as cosmos monsters. These gigantic, world-devouring beasts are mana given life, and they continue to need that power to sustain themselves. Each of the 10 cosmos monsters are insanely dangerous, can live and thrive within the cosmos, and can travel across the branches of the world tree with relative ease, making these creatures some of the biggest threats one could face on Kaldheim. The stories of the cosmos monsters goes back as far as anyone could possibly imagine. Even the gods of Kaldheim contemplate on their being. It's said by mages that these monsters contain in them all of the secrets of the world, every event that has ever happened, and even events still to occur. Many a scholar and even the gods themselves have dedicated their lives to uncovering these secrets. But, as you cannot just kindly ask a cosmos monster for its thoughts, this exercise continues to prove difficult. 10 cosmos monsters in total are believed to exist, coinciding with the number of seen realms on the external branches of the world tree. Yet only a few of these have ever been seen, and fewer still have stories written about them. Mostly, the cosmos monsters take on familiar shapes of natural beasts like wolves, bears, eagles, or even squirrels, and their temperament can vary just as wildly. From the stories of old, 3 main cosmos monsters appear. The first is a friendly squirrel named Toski the Secret Bearer. Toski is the smallest of the known cosmos monsters. It has a curious disposition, always scurrying up and down the trunk of the world tree and across its various branches. It's said to carry the seeds of the world tree that contain all the world's knowledge, and so, people and gods alike make it a game to try and catch this little Toski, although all have seemed to fail. The only god in which Toski has come to trust would be Azika, the god of the world tree itself. They share a special bond, showing us that not all cosmos monsters are true forces of destruction. Next, we have the Great Wolf, Seraph the Realm Eater. It was given this title by the mortals who have run afoul of this gigantic monster, its shape being that of a common wolf, only exaggerated to insane lengths. It can run down trees with its leap, crush houses in its jaws, and devour an entire village with relative ease. It may not be able to actually eat realms, but for those who encounter Seraph, that fear that it could is still very real. The greatest of these monsters was the first to be born, directly following the unfurling of the very first branch of the World Tree, a great snake known as Coma, the Cosmos Serpent. As the first and oldest cosmos monster, Coma has had time to grow to an insane size. Its true length has never been measured, even by the curious gods. As Coma can dislocate segments of its own body and move them independently of one another, some have noted that, because of this ability, Coma is capable of wrapping the entire World Tree up in its coil, meaning its size could be unimaginable. Even the gods of Kaldheim feared Coma, and what this immense serpent could do if given passage to any realm it chooses. A relatively small cosmos monster, like the wolf Seraph, was trouble enough. One could only speculate on the level of destruction brought forth by Coma's sheer size. Together, the gods wove a spell into the cosmos and around each of the realms that would bar the great serpent from ever physically entering the realms again, essentially locking it within the cosmos itself. However, this would have unforeseen consequences. The gods, as old as they are, have little perspective of the age and purpose of the cosmos monsters. They were here before all, born of the World Tree itself. Messing with them can cause a disturbance in the natural order. It is believed that the cosmos monsters were born of the World Tree out of necessity, that these beings serve very distinct purposes to keep the health of the World Tree and protect it from possible external threats. There are those that believe these cosmos monsters bring balance to the World Tree, and that they have shaped and brought the realms into being themselves. Yet, despite all of these warnings, the gods still saw it fit to lock Coma within the cosmos. With Coma unable to enter the realms, the serpent grew restless and agitated. Its movements became less fluid, more jagged and harsh. Its thrashing could be felt across the cosmos, as more cosmos monsters sought refuge on the realms themselves. Coma's imprisonment increased the rate of other cosmos monsters entering the realms, and its constant collisions with the World Tree itself caused a shifting of the realms within the cosmos, which was leading to more and more Doomscars. Doomscars are what we should hit on next, because I feel a lot of people out there get these events confused with its Norse inspiration, Ragnarok. Ragnarok in Norse mythology is a cataclysmic event, but it's meant to describe the end times, an extinction level event that would destroy not just the mortal realm, but all the realms. Doomscars are similar in their destructive force, but aren't as, well, all-encompassing. Doomscars on Kaldheim refer to when two pocket realms come into contact or overlap one another. While the idea of a world tree and its branches implies that each branch is separated and unable to directly touch is a nice one, it isn't completely accurate. The branches of the world tree almost jet out and rotate around the trunk of the tree, and as they rotate, the realms can quite easily bump into one another, and these bumps are what we call Doomscars. Now, thinking back to Alara, remember what happened when the shards were finally reconnected? Yep, that's what a Doomscar is. When the shards of Alara were forced back together, the conflicting worlds that evolved separate from one another for thousands and thousands of years, well, they clashed, oftentimes violently. The races, their practices, their mana alignments, religions, motivations, you name it. These shards had nothing left in common, and their sudden arrival into a new world meant competing factions and total war. This too happens with Doomscars. As one separated realm finds itself suddenly implanted in another, there's a wake of environmental destruction just from the sheer force of the collision, and then chaos and confusion, and ultimately bloodshed. And that continues until the realms continue on their rotation and the Doomscar ends. Doomscars don't often occur between more than two realms at a time. However, that is exactly the plan of Tybalt on Kaldheim, to wrap all of the realms into one single big Doomscar and to watch the chaos unfold. But normally, they're more localized events that happen naturally. However, with the aggravation of Coma the Great Serpent, they seem to be happening much more frequently. This is one of the reasons why the elvish people of Kaldheim in fact worship Koma, believing the gods were wrong for imprisoning it, and that without Koma on the realms, that they were in fact hurting the world tree and could lead to everyone's utter extinction. This is why we see the elves of Kaldheim sort of have this untrusting view of the gods here. Finally, let's discuss how one can traverse the cosmos. How can someone get from one realm to another if they choose to do so? Well, the first and easiest solution is to be a god. Yes, the gods have a special connection with the world tree that allows them to walk across all of its branches into any realm they choose. However, that journey is still pretty tricky, and many actually hate to do it via their own capabilities. This leads us right into option 2, magic or a magical artifact. There are spells and trinkets out there that interact with the world tree of Kaldheim, pulling on its branches and opening up portals between the realms. Typically, these types of items are used by the gods to make their journeys more expedient, but sometimes they fall into the hands of mortals, such as the Tirate Blade, the Blade of the Realms, made from the sap of the world tree that Tybalt uses to get from realm to realm. That's also true for specifically forged longboats inscribed with magical runes. These runes are a type of magic that have been passed down from the gods to select groups of mortals. These cosmos ships are certainly not an easy way to travel, as the cosmos itself is almost impossible to navigate through and there's no source of food or water there. You would need the addition of other spells to help guide your way, but a rune longboat is what Kaya used early in Kaldheim's story to find Tybalt on a different realm. So it remains a very real possibility for would-be travelers. The third option would be the use of omen paths. These are extremely random in nature, but they are natural doorways between realms as they pass near one another in the twisting cosmos. They're hard to track, just ask the Omen Seekers, a group of mystical human mages who spend their entire existence tracking and using the omen paths. However, if you're able to find one, it could mean a relatively easy trip to a different realm. The only issues with omen paths are you never really know when one will open, or where it could deposit you. You're just as likely to end up at the top of a mountain or the bottom of an ocean on a foreign realm when you use an omen path. So caution and courage is always advised. We've already talked in length about another, more unconventional way to travel the cosmos, those being Doomscars. Yes, they are dangerous, but if one occurs on your realm, you could always take that opportunity to hop into a different world and stay there as the Doomscar concludes. Easy peasy. And finally, being a shapeshifter. Yeah, I know, weird, right? The shapeshifters of Kaldheim are a mysterious race whose power to take on different physical shapes seems to be a gift given to them by the world tree itself. Using that same magic that changes their bodies, they can manipulate the space between the realms and create portals, much like omen paths. This gives the shapeshifters this amazing ability, one of the rare exceptions for a mortal to have this power on Kaldheim. And that, you guys, just about covers everything from the origins of Kaldheim, its world tree, and how the plane is made up of the realms, and even the cosmos that's stretched in between it. If you guys like this video, make sure to let me know what topic you'd like me to cover next in the comment section. I have plans to cover the various realms, the gods, and even the monsters of Kaldheim, but let me know which one you'd like to see first, and I'll see that it's done. In terms of world building, I actually really like the aspect of the realms on Kaldheim. I was always a fan of planes like Alara and Lorwyn that sort of have this like plane within a plane feel to them, so Kaldheim is pretty much right up my alley. What I'd like to see more of, especially with Kaldheim here, is the uncovering of new realms not known to us, or even the gods. Like, this is clearly pulled straight from Norse mythology, and I'm aware that that world tree from those myths had some realms among the tree's roots, maybe? If I'm wrong, correct me, but I would love if there was more to Kaldheim than what we first see. Just leaving an open door to a return and exploration of something new on Kaldheim if we ever do return. Oh, and of course, let's not forget, we've only seen a handful of these cosmos monsters. So yeah, wizards, you could play around with those a lot more if you wanted, and I wouldn't be angry. Anyway, guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. Remember, if you enjoyed it and want to support our content over here on the Aether Hub, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and of course, check out all the perks that you get when you become a patron over on Patreon. A link to our Patreon can be found in the description below. As always, thank you guys all so much for watching, and until next time, guys, see ya!